This is Kathy DeBoer, Executive Director at the American Volleyball Coaches Association. This recruiting tip of the week is brought to you by the Carolina Region, an affiliate partner of the American Volleyball Coaches Association.
Email is definitely a great way. Definitely proofread it, please, to make sure that you have the right coach's name, the right college's name. We think that's very important. A well-structured email tells us a lot about you as a person.
For me, like, email is always the best way. So just reaching out, obviously having a highlight film and making contact that way, giving us opportunity, obviously, to go watch them play in person, which is not the case currently, but email is generally the best way for me to start.
We love to have film, but also your coach's contacts, I think, is very important as well. So being able to get us in contact with your coaches too, just so we can have a little bit more information to work with. Definitely GPAs. Make sure you add the GPAs in there too. We want to know how you're doing in high school.
June 15th after your sophomore year is when we can start with phone calls, emails, etc. August 1st before your junior year is when you can start making official visits to Division I. You can make those official visits your junior year, but freshman, sophomore year, they got rid of all unofficial visits. So even if you come to my campus and you're a sophomore and you say, hey, coach, can I stop by your office and say hello? I have to tell you no.
As soon as you are enrolled your fall term freshman year of high school, we can have electronical communications with you. We can host you guys for unofficial visits. We cannot talk with you off campus at a recruiting event until you guys are a junior. Once you take your first class of junior year, that's when we can start talking to you off campus. But we can host you for one official visit after January 1st of your junior year.
I mean, NAI, we don't have a lot of those rules and restrictions. I think it's because we're a lot of really small private institutions. So for us, like, you can come up and talk to us at any time. But yeah, parents are allowed to approach us, athletes are allowed to approach us as long as they're high school age.
So we're looking for the student athletes that want to do the best that they can academically, and then that tends to correlate onto the court for us.
Spend a lot of time getting to know the kid, the family, just a lot about them and who they are as a person to make sure that they're a good fit with our program.
Obviously, we want, really good athletes, but more importantly, we want strong character students. Volleyball aside, we need to make sure that we're getting a good quality character guy first.
If I'm walking through a gym and you can do something that I can't coach you to do, that's interesting for me. But if you're the best player on the team, what are you doing to make the other guys on the court better players? How do you interact with your teammates? I'm really trying to get to know that person behind the athlete. With the social media stuff, be aware of what you're doing and who can see it, because we can all see it, and we will probably check it out at some point.
I've walked by courts and I've seen guys that we really liked and their coaches talking and they look disengaged, or they're looking the other direction, or they're having side conversations not related to volleyball. Those are kids that we're not interested in. We want someone that we know is going to come into our gym and fit into our culture and is also going to be a respectful young man.
But something to keep in mind when you're putting together your recruiting videos and your highlight tapes is the music choices they played in the highlight video. We don't want profanity on there.
The on-court demeanor matters a lot. It's a sport, so you're going to have your hothead moments. As long as they're not happening often.
If I have to have a phone call with you where I do all the talking, that's not great for me. It shows kind of a lack of interest. Be prepared for those communications. If you have a call scheduled with a coach, maybe know something about their university or their background. The first one that you're going to send to me should be in the first 30 seconds, something that makes me go, okay, you got my attention. So maybe your best plays, whatever you think your best attribute is, put it front and center first. I would have maybe full games prepared, and maybe have even full matches prepared where you feel like it was a good competitive match. I want you to see it play against really good competition because that's more beneficial to me than, watching you play against somebody who's not up to your level.
Like, don't show us the same clip. We get a lot of film where the hitter hits every single ball across court. or the setters, every single ball is a perfect pass or a free ball transition. So we want to see the game. Like, we want to see what you can do. How do you better the ball? How do you make the play better? How hard are you working to get in the right position? We want to see your top 10 in that initial video. We want to go, wow, we want this kid.
We're all at 4.5 scholarships for the entire roster. So in any given year, you can expect teams to have, usually between like 75% to 1.5 scholarships available to recruit with. Now that can obviously vary depending on where your roster is weighted. Full scholarships are very rare, but you can combine your academic aid with your athletic aid. So sometimes those student athletes have some financial resources through the academic avenues.
With the NCAA Division III, all institutions do not offer athletic scholarships. Things that we look at from the institutional side is where are your grades? What were your high school transcripts like? The Division III is more focused on the academic side and the internship and business side and what you're going to do after you graduate.
So every school is a little bit differently, and it just depends on how your system's set up. So I have a few guys with full ride scholarships. A lot of guys are paying around half tuition at our institution, but don't expect a full scholarship. I mean, it's incredibly rare.
There's two things you can't teach: height and athleticism. So that's something that we definitely look at across every level that coaches volleyball is how tall are you? How athletic are you? But then there's a lot of the IQ factor. Height is not a big thing as long as you have that instinct and that nose for the ball.
So you got to have a great serve, a good variety. You got to be able to help your team out from behind the end line. Controlling an attacker is important. Play defense like crazy. Dig everything that comes your way, and then you can, if coaches are comparing you to a 6'4", 6'5" guy who doesn't do all of those things, then you're more likely to come off well in that scenario.
I've had a lot of athletes that use outside recruiting services to contact me. Whether you just send me a YouTube link or that service, either way is fine. I can't say that I spend a lot of time using it. I just rely a lot on athletes contacting us or kids that we see within competition.
We use recruiting services. I think it's a good indicator, especially now too with COVID, where we're able to look through and see videos on guys. We can search by area. We can search, especially with NCSA, we can search by GPA requirements. So we can search by major. So we can really kind of fine tune using some of the recruiting services. So we do like using them. We're also a fan of just getting raw footage from you or a couple highlights without using the recruiting service.
I'll watch it and I'll take communication through those vendors, but I don't usually go out to those vendors to kind of search their database for different recruits.
So for athletes out there, I'd say continue to contact coaches. I know a lot of us are working from home, so I'm constantly checking my email. I'm getting a lot of new recruits that are contacting me. Don't be afraid to follow up. I mean, that's another thing is I am usually pretty good if I'm interested in getting back up to that kid right away, but it is kind of a different time right now. So some things get lost in the shuffle and it doesn't necessarily mean I'm not interested. Follow through. If you schedule an appointment to have a Zoom call with me, to have a phone call, make sure that you actually show up at that time. Make sure that you communicate if you can't. I've had a lot of athletes not be good about following through now that things are digital. So yeah, it's definitely challenging, but if I was an athlete, I'd say just continue to contact coaches. We're on our computers a lot nowadays.
Be patient and be flexible, because the natural progression for us of recruiting is evaluate, communicate, and then there's the in-person part of it. We get to know you, you come see campus, you come do that. I don't know when I'm going to be able to have recruits on my campus yet at this point. So be patient, be flexible, and yeah, be proactive in your recruiting. Use the resources that you have available to you as a recruit. Club directors that have relationships with coaches. Some of the clubs have coaches that are playing in college. Maybe there's a graduate from your high school who got recruited last year and has experiences. Don't be afraid to reach out to those people and have conversations with, kind of what they learned in their process. And it can be sometimes beneficial or useful in your process.
And that is our recruiting tip of the week. Thanks for your membership in the Carolina region.